Thank you very much. I'd like to look at this first opening slide, and there's a pair of two identical twins. So from the very beginning, probably since conception, I was fighting to be different, but often identified as the twins, and always a comparison of how many scores did you get in the maths test? What did Joe get? What did Kerry get? And whilst my identical twin has been a source of creativity for me, shared wisdom, and an incredibly important person in my life, we sought difference. The difference for me first came apparent in my early childhood when I recognised that I didn't learn the same way as others. And I recognised then that we've got to do things differently. So I have a passion about ideas. And I wonder in this audience today how many of you have had ideas but you don't want to share them, or you don't want to do them because you think maybe my idea is not going to be okay. And so I say to you, when you have an idea, think about what is your motivation. So from early on, my motivation has been about making a difference for learners. It's also been about the crux of my career, which is nursing, and ultimately making a difference for patients. My ideas are also around solving a problem. Something that is tangible, something that we can do, something that will make a difference for others. There is also the whys and the why nots. So why would you do that? Why would you play in that football team, Kerry? Why would you go and look at things that way? And my answer is, why not? It's also about ideas that we have and you say, oh, I haven't got time to do that. Or no, I don't have the resources. When will I start? I say, start now. Start with little ideas because little ideas grow into big ideas. It's about opening your mind and looking beyond your comfort zone. And when you're opening your mind, find those spaces that allow you to be creative, because we've all got an element of creativity. What is it that we lose as adults? Yet children, we give them a crayon, we give them pen, we give them paper, and they just explore. And yet as adults, we often lose that. We need to view the world through the eyes of others. We need to find space and the tools that allow us to create. So I'm blessed with the notion of free-flowing ideas. And in my handbag is always an ideas book with a great pen and no rubber and no pencil, so I can't cross those ideas out. But in finding those ideas, one also has to be prepared for the hazards. I once, as a child, had an autograph book, and probably some of you in the audience can remember those autograph books. And someone had written, when I was in early childhood, learn to paddle your own canoe. I wasn't quite sure what that actually meant, but I wouldn't mind getting in a canoe. So this learning to paddle my own canoe actually would become a metaphor. I'm passionate about canoeing. And it is in this ocean that I find my space of thinking and freedom. And I'm sure all of you can find that space, whether it be on a beach, whether it be in a rainforest. It's a matter of finding the space. But this ocean is also filled with sharks. And it's about feeding those sharks the right thing so they don't bite you. It's about accepting those people that perhaps are your greatest critics, and sorting the difference between those that are constructive critics to those that are destructive, because then your ideas die. It's also about negotiating that ocean for when those waves come up and they toss you out, and you learn to Eskimo roll and get back up. You also learn about the things that can support you on your journey, and for me, it's often a sail. Believe it or not, this is where I did my data analysis in my PhD. Yep. So my ideas, she's an attractive woman, this one. Let me tell you where my first idea started from in nursing education. 30 years ago, I became a nurse educator. For the first 18 years, I conformed. I did what was expected. And it wasn't until these last 12 years or so that I've really got out of my box. My first remembrance of getting out of that box came from a group of nursing students who were doing pressure injury dressings. I could see that they were so engrossed in this dressing, but the fact was nothing was attached to that dressing. There was no human. There was no person responding to that. So how could I do things differently? I always had a dress-up box in my class. Students think, seriously, Kerry, why would you have a dress-up box for university students? We do not need that. I say, watch what we can do with this. I sent these students out, and I actually got the dress-ups on. I put that silicone buttocks that they were doing the dressings on in my bra. I then got back into bed, and they came back in from afternoon tea, morning tea, whatever it was. I say, now listen, my dears. My name's Reid-Searl, and I've got a sore right here, and I need you to do the dressings on me. And suddenly their attitude changed. They were actually dealing with me as a human. I was actually responding to them with my fears and my thoughts with a little bit of humour, and I had an old set of teeth. You can see them right there, and the only way to keep them in was to have a little bit of a tongue protruding. The challenge was these students could actually see that I was still the teacher. So I needed to hide myself. So I thought something wonderful could occur, and I would go and get some masks. And these were fantastic. This is when not all your ideas go down so well. And so I thought, well, I'll try that, but absolutely no response. So I thought, okay, I'm going to put that away, but I've still got a passion. I've still got an idea. I want to transform and change. And so, Mrs. Doubtfire, here you are. Here are my masks. So I started to don these masks. The idea being the informed educator transferring into another character. That character has a platform that becomes the platform for learning and teaching. They have the history. And so Muriel Moore is one of my favourites. She's a retired matron, of course, and she designs everything right for the students. Have you washed your hands, my dear? No, I don't like it the way you do this way. So here is our first character, Stanley, and I'm going to show you him shortly. So what is it about masking this educator? As I say, the educator behind the masks is able to coach, is able to facilitate learning for the students, is able to provide the character that is full of vulnerability. Human connection becomes absolutely a part of the student's journey, and the context is real. It validates in terms of what I'm doing is important to validate the ideas and share the ideas and be generous but also be cautious and be grateful for every opportunity that comes your way to be able to share these ideas. So I started to write these ideas down. I created resources, and these resources are now shared in 3-day workshops in universities across the world. How fortunate I am. And every opportunity to share that message comes from whether it is a CWA meeting or whether it's a large conference. But it's important that whatever I do, I can keep the momentum going. So one of my passions has been about intimate human care. And I ask you in the audience, I wonder how many of you have had a loved one or yourselves have been in a healthcare facility where you've needed somebody else to do the care on you. And so here comes Muriel Moore as the retired matron coming into the classroom with students. These are first-year students, never touched a patient before, never, let alone undress them. So my props, I say I need penises, I need vaginas, I need breasts. And so I transform. And these students can then shower me, bathe me, care for me, treat me with the level of respect and the regard that I want. And all the time I am directing because I'm the retired matron. Get under my breast, dear. Under. Clean it properly. In between my legs, dear. Yes. And so these characters share a wisdom and they create a connection for students because of their vulnerability. But all the time the students are learning. I'd like you quickly to have a look at Stanley.
Yes, here I am, yes. I can't see you very well, it's very dark here, but I'd like to just tell you that my name is Stanley Selby, and I have the pleasure of working with the nursing students in the university. They understand my journey, and I teach them everything they need to know, because I've been in hospital more times than you've had baked dinners. And they understand my physiology, and I get the gestion of the heart failure, and I tell them to keep me on the fluid chart and measure everything that's going in and out. And you remember, if I got more coming in than going out, I'm like a big fat juicy grape. Or if I've got more going out than going in, then I'm a sucked in sultana, negative balance, yes. So I teach them everything. I might tell you the nurses I like, I have the sweeties in the right side. The ones I don't like, I have the sweeties that I've licked and rewrapped. Yes, yes. So that's me, and I work with Kerry all the time. So yes, there we go.
So the character, as you can see, becomes vulnerable and works with the students on their journey. But there is also the little people, and these are the puppets that I work with to transform learning for them. And again, here they are, the character, the puppets become the journey with the child. The child has an understanding as a result of working with the puppets. Additionally, when we have an idea, sometimes those ideas go out the door. For my puppets who work with us in children's ward, we also identified that infection control was an issue. So we needed to build something different. And so with my masks and with a fantastic puppeteer, we were able to design a world-first silicone procedural boy. This little puppet works with children who have chronic illnesses and conditions, and through that, the children can actually change the power. And they are the ones that are caring for the puppet, and they are the ones that can portray their feelings to what they would otherwise be having done to them. So my ideas in terms of puppets, masks, I think, okay, so what's next? And there are the simple things. Things that you may not necessarily have a whole heap of money to start with, but they can make a difference. And I go now to the story of poo. Did you know that 30% of children have bowel-related issues? Did you know that a quarter of those children will end up as adults with bowel-related issues? Did you know that of those 30% of children, many will have learning and teaching difficulties? So, we need to think about the different types of poos and educating. Again, this is an idea with no money, but we have something that can make a difference for others. So we've got the Bristol stool for adults, but we've also got the Bristol stool for children. Let's create these and make posters and toilet door posters and make games and make cards and engage children to understand about their poos. We are going to make stories. We are going to have these little people that will have bowel-related issues that can be the messages for children. Some of these ideas have come to verse already, and I'm just going to read you one that has come out of that scribble book and a free-flowing pen out of my handbag. It's Mrs. Ellie McPhee. She's got gluten problems, you know. There's also those characters that have got, where do my poos come from? What shapes my poos? What sort of shape should I have? And you should be having a sausage, number 4. So it goes like this. Mrs. Ellie McPhee is 104. She's as wide as a table and tall as a door. She wears her dresses around the wrong way, and Sundays in the garden are her favourite day. Her yummiest food is cakes with cream. In fact, every night this is what she would dream. Cakes in the morning, cakes for tea, cakes for supper, and cakes by the sea. At 7 in the morning when she does awake, it's a warm cup of tea and a brown chocolate cake, and Mrs. McPhee has a problem or two. It was right from her belly and into her poo. The problem came from eating the cake, and soon she would have a bellyache. Next would come blurting from under her dress. The sound could be heard from east to west, and embarrassed she was. "Excuse me," she would say, "but the cake makes me blurt throughout the day." So she went to the doctor, who checked her belly. He looked at her closely, saying, "It's not soft like jelly. It's hard and it's bloated," said Dr. McShake. "The problem is the wheat you've got in the cake. Gluten's the problem that's making you blurt, and it's probably making your poor belly hurt. So here's what you need," said Dr. McShake. "It's special food instead of your cake." So Mrs. McPhee found gluten-free to eat, and now her puffs are kind of sweet. So not as loud or smelly too, and number 4 is her perfect poo. It's sausage in shape, smooth and brown, no cracks or hard bits can be found. Her belly doesn't hurt, and she takes care what to eat, but chocolate wraps are always found at her feet. My message is, find the problem, dare to think differently, find the space, remain true to your cause, share your ideas, be grateful and be resilient. Thank you.